Hello and welcome to Newsmakers for this Wednesday, November 27, 2024. I'm Louie Butko, and thank you for joining us on CHCH Podcasts. My guest today, a CHCH icon. Born in Hamilton, raised in Burlington, she was a staple on the channel for decades, a trailblazer as the station's first female general assignment reporter. She held local politicians accountable, reporting education, entertainment, weather, anchoring, hosting. There's nothing she couldn't handle while being an award-winning broadcaster here on CHCH. She's since to go on to lend her talents as a freelance broadcaster while volunteering with dozens of organizations in the Golden Horseshoe, including Interval House, which has an event happening soon, which we will get into. Please help me welcome Connie Smith to Newsmakers today. Connie, thank you.
Hi, Louie. Nice to see you. I have one quick correction.
Yes.
I wasn't the first reporter.
Okay.
I was only the first woman on the anchor desk of the weekday news.
The weekday news.
Yes,
okay.
because the great Sue Prestige was before me and Joanne Ingracia, so I just had to, facts.
Trailblazing nonetheless, and as you know, facts are important, so I'm glad we were able to make that correction, but thank you for doing that. You saw a little bit of the old tape there. Take you back just a little bit.
Oh yeah. It's been quite a journey that continues really. When you're a newsie, you never stop being a newsie. It just kind of changes form over the course of a career, right?
We have you here talking about Interval House, which is it's got an event coming up. It's a Christmas-themed event, and I want to start there because, again, looking through the archival footage, I came across a little story you did on a certain National Ballet of Canada ballerina in the Nutcracker. You got to do this a couple of times.
Yes.
The medic.
Yes. And there is a story. I was a first because I spoke during a production, which you never do. That's my baby sister on the right. That's my little sister. She was a ballet dancer with the National Ballet, and you're not supposed to talk. And I went that way instead of just, miming it. So I got a little bit of reaction to that. But yes, many years comparing our toes. Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
You and your sister, you did that a couple of times as the bearer there.
Haven't seen that for a long time, Louie.
We went through the footage. We found it. But Christmas always been near and dear to your heart. So tell us a little bit about what you got going on coming up later in December.
Well, December 7th, we are presenting, it's called Connie and Friends Present Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. It's a week from Saturday, December 7th, and it's at St. Andrew's United Church. It's the second annual one we've done in support of Interval House. I have some very special celebrity readers joining me this year, including, of course, Brian Wood of CHCH, longtime friend and colleague of mine for many years. And he will be joining us. Matt Hayes will be back. Musician Jim Witter will be back. And for the first time, we have the co-founder of Mabel's Labels, a wonderful entrepreneur, author, and she's a volunteer in the community as well. We have choirs, Bob Morrill Ensemble and Joy Choir. So it's a beautiful event, and there is a lot of meaning because Charles Dickens is a favorite of mine. I actually traveled to his house outside of London, England, and stood in front of one of the podiums where he used to speak. He was a social activist ahead of his time. He was really disturbed by the poverty he saw around him, the plight of children especially, lack of schools, and the plight of women. So really, the evolution of shelters for women and even pediatric hospitals started with Charles Dickens. And that theme is prevalent in a lot of his works. But A Christmas Carol is a favorite. And it's the whole idea, there's so much anger out there today. You know that. Polarization and me first kind of attitude, the gap between rich and poor growing all the time. So it's a message of compassion and the possibility to transform, to change, to see the light, to be able to live in the joy of being someone who practices goodwill and compassion.
Christmas time, obviously an important time for people, and the Interval House does such important work, and that's where the proceeds for this are going. You've been a long time volunteer, part of their board. What is it about the work at Interval House that inspires you and that makes you want to be a part, and that it's a proud part of our community?
I've been on a couple of boards throughout my life. This one is very different. It's really grassroots. We are so close to the frontline staff. Every time we have a board meeting, we have one of the frontline workers tell what we call a her story. And we learn exactly what's going on out there. We don't feel so disconnected, sort of like so many board positions. Although very important, that's what got me invited. I emceed a lot of their events, did a lot of stories going way back to the second stage housing organizations that we used to have. And so I felt an affinity to helping women, and to be able to do it almost one-on-one is really special. Plus, years and years we did the McMaster Children's Hospital telethon here. And following the kids and the relationship between parents and children, it really drew me. So after working on a lot of the events, I was asked to join the board, and I was really happy to serve as their ambassador now.
Now, you obviously had such a wonderful career here at CHCH, and more than that, more than your career here is what you did outside of here, and that is giving back, whether it was through McMaster's children, telethons, just events, again, going through archival footage, there's you talking United Way and emceeing and all these gigs. Why was it important for you as a member of this community here in Hamilton to give your time, to be a face? Because sometimes I struggle going out there and just having people stop me and say, hey, are you on CH? Like, that's you, right? You get a little anxious. You talked about that. People are angry. But when people come, for you, it was important to be a part of the community, not just on their television screens, but face to face, too.
I think because we're on the television screens, you're talking to a camera most often. Being at an event or a fundraiser, you see real people and you connect with real people. And I was never one to walk away from a story. I wanted to know what happened the next week or the next year or the next 10 years. And I had a segment called Then and Now for my last few years at CH, because I think that trust comes from those physical connections one-on-one with people. During the whole pandemic, it was very difficult. And I was teaching journalism at that time, and I just felt that disconnect, even though Zoom was wonderful, and now everyone has Zoom. But it's the person-to-person thing, and getting to know your community, as you all are here at CHCH today, gives you integrity, gives you trust. People trust you when they know you. And they know you from seeing you in their living rooms or their iPhones or wherever today. But to really see you in person. And I am so blessed every time someone at the mall says, hi, Connie, how are you? I'm grateful. Sorry to bother you. I say, no, thank you. I really appreciate it when people reach out and say hello.
I was at the grocery store on Monday, and somebody came up to me, and they did that thing where they look at you a little too long.
Not sure.
They think they know, and I think I know
See,
who
what
you
do,
are.
you just go, yes. You just give them a little smile.
My line has been these days, I get that a lot. He sounds like a really good-looking guy, but that's not me. That's not me. And then they're like, it's you. And then eventually I cave and admit that it is me.
A smile says it all.
It really does. And I guess I've struggled with that. But you, like you said, as the first woman on the anchor desk during the week on CHCH, like you were a trailblazer. It was a different time for sure, but what does it mean to you to, again, still be approached and still have those conversations? And when you look back on your time here, how do you remember it?
Well, I'm just so grateful for the platform. John Best was the man who's now head of the Bay Observer. He put me on the air. And it was a time when we were playing with blue screens, and Barbara Frum was doing the Journal and all that, and I became Hamilton's Barbara Frum, doing our double enders and all that. And it was fun because my dear friend Dan, he's going, oh. I felt like, was I treading on his territory? But I always knew where his jacket was hanging over the seat. That is Dan's chair. And I respected that. I respected that because it was a change. And we became the best of friends and are to this day. And actually, Louie, my years at CH gave me such a platform in the community to move on from CH so that I am welcomed by organizations. They know who I am. My brand is always good news because that was the other show I did at CTS for a couple of years. And I appreciate that because I want to be involved. I want to help people still. And it was my years here that gave me that credibility that I'm grateful for.
Yeah, and credibility you still walk with every single time you walk in a room and I see you around. Connie's here. Connie's here. Everybody stands up a little bit straighter, especially as somebody. But even one of our young reporters here today, when I told her that you were coming on, she said, "Oh my gosh." Connie, even before I knew her, she was helping me out. Simone Gavro said, one day you were at a story.
Yes, it was for Interval House.
And she's like, you know what, you should really go talk to this person. This is the person. But just like Simone was, fish out of water, fresh out of school type thing.
It's scary.
Big city. And she said, I didn't even know who she was. And then when I found out that it was, she's like, it all made sense.
But I was that person.
Yeah.
I was that person. Oh my goodness, the mistakes I made. I started out in television at CKVR in Barrie, stood up in the middle of an OMB hearing, and started filming. Nobody told me you don't film inside a quasi-judicial hearing. And I was called out by the chair of the commission, put that camera down. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I shot my own film and set up my own audio. This was early on at CKVR. And then I forgot to turn the audio on.
Oh,
and Penetanguishene had to drive all the way back. And I said to my news director, why didn't you remind me? Well, you'll never do that again, will you?
This lesson still being taught.
we were all those new people in every profession.
And even to teach them, too, to go through Mohawk and all the teaching. When you see a student come back and maybe they thought you were a little tougher.
Eric was my student.
Maybe they were a little tough. You were a little tougher on them because you saw something on them. But how rewarding is that to see students you've had, including Eric, go off and be the great journalists they are?
It's very rewarding, and I keep in touch with a lot of them, and a lot of moved around the country, and some are still in journalism. And my big challenge as a journalism professor has been convincing them that as reporters, you can make a difference, because some of them, quite frankly, say it's too depressing. I want to be a sportscaster, or I want to do entertainment. I don't want to do news. It's depressing. But I try to tell them, you can make it better. Move the narrative forward. Yeah, it might be bad news today, but focus on someone who's doing about it, something to make it better. And then all of a sudden, you're affecting change, positive change.
How different is the news business? It's smaller, we can say that. Newspapers have closed. Radio stations where you and I both got our start in Hamilton, 1150.
Stab in the heart.
CKOC. I was on CKOC, right? So like all these stations that are no longer there. Obviously, it's different. But what do you see as the biggest challenge for young journalists, other than finding the good news, finding the good stuff? But what do you see when you see
local journalism?
Today?
We have to protect and nurture local journalists, and that hasn't changed. Being a good journalist has never changed. We just change our tools all the time. I mean, I went from black and white film in Barrie, color film here, 2-inch videotape, 1-inch videotape, cards, and whatever it is now. So you just change, but journalism is still journalism. It's facts, it's being unbiased, it's being objective, it's keeping people accountable in public office, and that will never change. What is changing is the competition on social media, where we're not assured that we're getting information that's true. And that is the big challenge. And I think we have to entertain young people, educate them in public school to learn how to trust what they're seeing online. You can't wait till high school and college till they know what source to trust.
Yeah.
So our biggest challenge is educating young people in how to search for the truth.
So media literacy is how we see that be described these days. And you mentioned, the people online, people on social media, vitriol, and the amount of this is fake news. Hatred.
It's
like
awful.
You said. How would you combat that today? If I post a story, and this has happened this week, somebody's posted a story, and instantly there's a horrible amount of just negativity, personal insults, fake news, bot by Trudeau news. It's hard to be a journalist today. I'm not saying it wasn't when you were. What would your advice be to journalists today to not just ignore that, but to live with those?
thick skin.
Yeah.
Thicken up your skin really helps. And I know, because I see some things that are posted about you awesome people, and I'm thinking, get a life, you people. There are moderators, are there not, on various websites that can say, no, that's not. I think we have to really raise the level of discourse, because the way we communicate with each other is dropping down into the bowels of our lexicon. I mean, it's terrible. And what kind of a role model are we presenting for little kids, and how we treat one another, and how we speak with one another? Tom Charrington, tough guy, veteran icon at CH. He says you can always ask tough questions, but it's the way you do it. It's the tone of your voice. It's the way you ask it. And then when you leave, you always shake that person's hand. So I think you can expand that to the way we speak with people generally. The tone, stop and listen to people. Don't just blurt out things, but in terms of combating it at the journalism level, you just have to stay true to what you believe. Don't get pulled down into the muck. Don't get drawn into that. And just don't go there, and stay above it.
Where does this incredible positivity and optimism come from, Connie? Because it really is... It's something you feel, it's something you give off, and I know you know that, because you're a very charming woman. Everybody who meets you is instantly like, oh my gosh. But where did that come from to start, and how do you continue to exude it every day?
Okay. Well, the longer you live, the more you experience in life. And I've had my own tragedies in life and had to learn to deal with them. And it strengthens you, and it teaches you to just call on your strength and to help others by moving forward and trying to find silver linings in everything you do. And my years as a journalist, I did some tough stories. A little girl that needed a heart transplant for years and years and years, and she was getting so bad that they asked me to write her obit to make it ready. She was a little girl. She was like 8 years old, and I knew this girl. I knew her mom. I knew her dad. And then one day the phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was the dad saying, thank you, she has a heart. So you experience tragedies with people, and you see how they are changed by it. Elizabeth Granbois, wonderful woman, told her story. I worked on her Concerts of Hope. She has ALS, which is a terrible, terrible disease. Talk about inspiring, and I've known her. She's a friend now for 20-odd years. We're having dinner next week. But knowing what she has gone through as a journalist, I followed her story. But then to see her get up and speak and inspire others. So it's the people whose stories I've told who have inspired me to say, like, I don't have it that bad. Like, really, look what they've done. And if they can get up and go forward and cause change for the good, like, I should be able to. Plus, I don't like hanging around negative people. It's just my nature. I don't like confrontations. And it kind of slaps on the wrist I got over my years at CH from management was maybe because I wasn't as tough or as aggressive as maybe I should have been. I would never tell a source. I would never reveal a source. I got in trouble for that once because the news director at the time said, "No, they knew that you were going to go on air and talk about it." I said, "No, I'm not going to talk about it." So it's the way I am. I trust people. I believe in people. I want them to trust me. And I just like to be around more positive people. That's it.
That's good advice,
Louie.
That's good advice for anyone. I love it. Thank you. Because I think there's a lot of times where, especially in this business, you can get down, you can get hard on yourself. You can do a really difficult story, and the next day expect to go to work just the same, right? And I think of a lot of our reporters out in the field who are out there interviewing victims of crime or even worse. So it's great advice, and I appreciate
Trials
that.
And all that, yeah. It's amazing what you learn from the people you encounter every day. There was a bumper sticker I saw once. It said, "You never know the battles other people are facing today. Be kind."
And then they proceeded to honk and flip you off.
But
yeah.
I try to live by that. But when I went into the hospital to have my son at McMaster Children's Hospital, I was under police watch because I had been threatened. My life was threatened, and my unborn son by someone that wrote me letters all the time, and he was very nice, and I'd write letters back. And then finally the edge got a little harder because I was told, rightly so by management, okay, don't reply anymore. And the last letter I got was about a week before my child was born, and he said, I'm going to kill you and your effing unborn child.
Wow.
So that came close to home, but it turned out fine, and the cops came, they found him and said, look, he was just a depressed teenager. Do you want to press charges? No. So again, someone else going through something. And I felt bad for that young person, but it turned out fine.
You brought up the people you work with, because I think that was an important thing, and I will say that's what helps us get through these tough times.
Absolutely, it's your family, Louie.
You were part of the 70th reunion earlier this year at CHCH. You and Dan got reunited behind the desk there. It was great to see. You were part of a panel with people like Eric and Simone, giving advice and your experiences. Hey, what was that like coming back, or coming here? I guess not back, but coming back for the 70th and that experience, and even just being behind the desk with Dan. What was that like again?
Wow. Very overwhelming. I mean, it took me a while to get over my departure. It did. And, I wrote about what it's like to lose a job you thought you'd had for life. More to relate to other people going through the same thing, because it was during a recession back in 2008. And it was hard, but wow, what a learning lesson it was that I could go on. And then I took what I learned about news and how we need a different positive approach to getting over negative things, and Always Good News concept came out of that, which was an incredible experience. So, and again, I thank my years here at CH for that. So yes, it was a little... I had been here a few times just to promote some events, and that was fine, but to be welcomed with such open arms, it was the hall cake I never got. If you know the history of hall cake around here, whenever anyone leaves, you get a cake in the hall in the old building, which used to be the new building. So it was like, I got my hall cake. Yeah. So it was wonderful, and just a chance to talk to the new reporters and exchange ideas and thoughts and advice and stories. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful moment. And seeing Dan, of course, my buddy Dan.
Connie and Friends, one more time, tell us about next Saturday.
Yes, December 7th, doors open at St. Andrew's United Church. It's on Upper Paradise Road. You can buy tickets at the door the day of, $4.79, Upper Paradise, or you can reach out online to intervalhousehamilton.org/events. Even going to the website will talk you through how you could order tickets. Or there's a phone number you could call too, but I don't have it right now.
We got the poster up. We put the website up too there.
Interval House of Hamilton.
Interval House of Hamilton. Yes. They are doing outstanding work. You are still doing outstanding work, and it is an honor to have you across from me today. Connie, thank you so much for making the time.
Louie, what a great conversation we had. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. And thank you on behalf of Interval House of Hamilton.
Absolutely. The least I can do. The least I can do. All right, Connie Smith, my thanks to her for joining me today, and my thanks to you as well, because we could not do the show without your support. While you're here, hey, why don't you like and subscribe to CHCH Podcast so you never miss an episode of this show or any of the other great shows we have for you, including Sportsline with Bubba O'Neill. I want to thank Mike Corsten for being the production assistant today, and I want to thank Kyle Miller for directing today's episode. And one more time, thank you from all of us here at CHCH. I'm Louie Butko. Have a great day.